now. Okay.
It says recording on mine.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see it at the top now. Okay, awesome. So, so the first question we had was, how can I become an intentional teacher in my content area? And then like the 5 specific behaviors. I am elementary concentration, so like I definitely want to teach within that kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade. I'm really big on the foundation needs to be really strong for kids to continue, because I've worked with kids who haven't gotten that foundation and are in 3rd grade and can't read. So I definitely want to like be part of that really strong base. And so when I think of that question, I just think of like, because like intentionally, like you're intentionally looking for like what needs to be done in a classroom. So when I think of like a 1st or a 2nd or a kindergarten class, or even 2nd grade, I think of like a big specific behavior, I think, is like keeping a really strict schedule, if that makes sense, or like getting them in that mindset that like this is how school will be set. So like a specific like, this is this time that we do this in the day, and then we have lunch, and then we do this time. And so I think that's a specific behavior that you intentionally have to seek out. I know there are teachers that just ebb and flow, but kids work really awesome on that really fun strict schedule, even though it seems insane. It works. Then I think my second one was like also intentionally knowing that at that point, like children also, not all of them are at the same developmental level, because like kindergarten through 2nd grade is like such a wide range. Like you can have a 6th grader that, or it's not 6th grade, 6-year-old that acts like a 8-year-old just because they're developmentally ahead, but you might have a 7-year-old,
or they've never been exposed to school.
Exactly. So I think and a big behavior in that is like intentionally looking for, like knowing you're not gonna have consistency. I think the last one also kind of goes with that I had in my head was like intentionally knowing you're gonna have to adjust what you teach each kid kind of in some sort of way. So like one kid might get all the sight words that week, but another kid might not. So you might have to kind of intentionally know that Sarah needs to go over those sight words again, but Billy got them last week. So like intentionally seeking out those things. But that was the
setting the goals and then practicing the goals. And then if they don't make benchmark or whatever, intervene.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I had in my head for that elementary.
Are all 3 of us elementary K6?
Might be.
No.
He is not? Okay. I thought we might be, but because I am too.
Yeah.
Emily, what are you?
Secondary. I want to teach business education.
That is something that in the past few classes I've had is something that I've never heard of, but the people I've been in group with like talk about that. I guess my high school never had it. I think it's something super important, but never was exposed to that. And the people I've talked to in the past few groups have been like, yeah, I'm business education. I'm like, huh? Okay, awesome.
Like, can you tell me what that means? I'm really old.
Yeah. It could be accounting, so accounting 1 and accounting 2. Personal finance, that one's a really important that everyone needs to take.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just like a semester course, but they're really good, like especially senior year. Sophomores don't necessarily, I mean, it's good for them to take 2, but especially by senior year, getting to take that. Entrepreneurship.
Do you get college credit for those at all? If like,
some of them I did. I took like some insurance classes, but it just gave a really good like, basic understanding of business. So I actually got a finance degree. So
awesome.
I graduated August, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I graduated in August too.
So the August ceremony, but graduated in May. So
yeah. So you obviously have different intentional teacher behaviors because you're dealing with not 6-year-olds. You're dealing with, which in my head I can imagine dealing with a bunch of 16 through 18-year-olds. So I would rather talk to a 5-year-old about Paw Patrol than have to talk to a 16-year-old about anything. So You'll definitely have
What
different
kind of
intentional behaviors.
Yes, and what kind of like goals would you think about setting like intentionally for your age group?
Right. It was kind of hard thinking about this, honestly, because I was like, these kids are older, like they should be more mature and take control over their education a little more than elementary. But as I was reading in the book, one that stood out that was just an example in the book that I didn't have to think about was like to quickly go over your homework answers and just go over the questions that were missed the most. That way you're not taking extra classroom time to go over questions that everyone's already gotten a grasp of. So I thought that was really good. And I remember that from some of my classes, even in college, doing that. I thought about like encouraging like individuality and creativity in assignments, like for example, like personal finance, using things from their own lives or things that they've experienced to for creating a budget and things like that, or entrepreneurship, creating your own business and coming up with your own ideas that way. And then I guess another thing that I thought of was using applications, like computer applications that are like actually used in the real world, like accounting, for example, using an accounting application and using that online, and then also doing it by hand. So we're going to get a good grasp of understanding how to do it, and then how they would do it if they had a career in that.
That's so important to know, just like in general, it's just a good life skill to have.
Yeah. And I feel like even if you, like some kids that will eventually maybe go to college and do that, go into some type of finance degree, I think that's a good base. And then I think it also compares to students that aren't, but they have that base and might be able to get a job right out of high school because, I do have experience with that software, even though most students don't. So,
it's just good, like life skills, understanding like to be able to handle your own finances, like going and buying a car, buying a house and doing your taxes and stuff like that.
Yes. It's all stuff that you joke about needing, and then once you need it, you're like, I wasn't kidding. I really did need that.
Exactly.
Darn. So, I didn't know, Erin, do you have anything else to add to what I said about elementary before we move on?
No, I mean, on what I had written beforehand was just to get to know each student and their strengths and their weaknesses. And when you're doing that, the reason why you would do that is because, not like you said, not everyone learns the same. Everyone learns different or at different paces. Technically, everybody, because of standardized testing, has to be all on the same page, but that's not the case. So that's when like interventions come in and so on. So I feel like knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the student is what will make you an intentional teacher, because to me that's like the most intentional thing you can do.
I agree. I think that's I totally agree with that. So the next question is, what does it mean to be an intentional teacher? And we kind of talked about this a little bit before, but Erin, if you want to read your definition that you had, I really liked it. Like I know it was just a Google search, or is it like right from the book, but I like it.
I read it in the book. I just
I like that.
Doing things that way, and I try to look at that and then decide, on my own what I feel about it. But things with a reason or purpose while being flexible and not losing sight of the goal.
I think
you can be flexible and not take care of things, but
I think the flexibility, I think that's a huge part of that definition, because I mean, my thought is you can easily be sidetracked. Like when I did 2 years of service with AmeriCorps, and we taught kids in the summer, and there'd be times we'd be doing a math game and a kid would ask a question, and I'm like, well, we're not doing that till next week, but you already talked about and you kind of were doing. So let's talk about this real quick. And then by the time we got done, we rooted back to where we were, but it was like, well, you already brought it up, so you're asking. So how about I just talk a little bit about it? So next
Right.
week when we start discussing it, you kind of were like, oh, well, last week this happened.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
the flexibility is a really huge part that differentiates a teacher that's just there to teach what the book says and go with it, and then a teacher
Right.
that really wants to teach kids but are still focused on those standards that have to be met. So yeah.
Right.
I kind of came up with a definition. I read that definition from the book, but I tried to come up with just my own kind of spin on it. And I said, an intentional teacher uses different teaching strategies so that every student is able to succeed in the classroom.
Oh, I really like that. I think that even embraces that flexibility so that every student, because every student is different. You have auditory learners, you have visual learners, you have kinesthetic learners. So like I think including every student and not just, I mean, standards are obviously important, but sometimes it's just like, I feel like there are people that I know and teachers I had that were constantly like, well, this is a standard, we taught it, next one, but like didn't really explore anything. You remember stuff from the teachers that did like fun things, like I'll never forget building the bottle rocket in science for some reason, but don't ask me what we did in calculus because I don't remember. So it's just like, I think it's that big, I think the word intentional is such a huge word that can be not obviously used in different, like in multiple different ways, but I think it's like such like, it pinpoints what you think of a teacher. So like you say teacher, it's like, okay, yeah, you teach. And it's like, no, I'm an intentional teacher. So it makes it be like, I intentionally look at what I need to teach rather than just teaching in a broad scope, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I also think a big part of it is like the connection you're making with the students.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, not just teaching the material you're supposed to be teaching, but like checking on them and, you know, learning more about their lives than just school.
Yeah.
Right.
And making that connection and making your classroom comfortable and like a good place to learn. And they're comfortable talking to you.
Yeah, I agree. I have listened to stories that kids tell me that I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. But like other mentors are like, that kid would never talk to me. I'm like, well, you want to know? Because she's told me everything I didn't really need to know, but now I know. And so it's just, I get that.
So for all three of us, intentional means inclusion, I think.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think that's the biggest part of it. I think inclusion and
flexibility.
Yeah, flexibility. I think those are big parts of it. Okay, we're about to reach 13 minutes, and we tried really hard. So I think we have our definition. I think we have a good definition of intentional teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do too.
This stop recording.